four-wheel drive. And it's not really for going off-roading, but conditions like this or on the beach, the four-wheel drive is useful. It's more of a peace of mind than anything. This is what 4x4 gets us. It gets us to this mountaintop at Crater Lake National Park. We have the Snowpocalypse going on right now. We're on the way down. Up on top there was about 12 feet of snow at the banks, but a little bit less here obviously. But no cars going up and down. I think they have the gate closed due to the weather. But 4x4 is not really for just off-road, especially in this type of RV. You know, this is way too big, too long, and we don't do any kind of trail riding, just Forest Service roads, so this is perfectly fine for us. I still would like to have bigger tires and a lift in the back. Well, here we got so much snow. You can see how much snow gets kicked behind the tires, and since I've caulked it really good, this compartment is really dry, or no water is getting in. And this compartment, since I've sealed it completely, you can see that it's completely dry. Otherwise this would just be loaded with that muddy snow in here, like what you see in the down below that mud flap. So pretty good. I wish the manufacturers would do this from the get-go, but just a quick review of how the winter preparation went. And here's the bubble wrap in action. I can't give you any scientific proof that it worked any better, but it definitely didn't work any worse. So I'm gonna go with my theory that that bubble wrap actually helped. Obviously if you use the closed cell foam insulation, it'll work much better, but I wanted to let the daylight through. So I wonder if I can get a top of this RV snow shot. You can see how much snow has been accumulating. We've only been here for about an hour, so this snow is coming down really quick. But what an awesome winter day. And that Starlink, if you see up there, there's no snow sitting on top. It's really hard to see from here, but you can actually see some steam coming off of there. That Starlink does have a snow melt feature. So the snow melt feature is on right now, and all that snow is melting off there. So that's a good thing. Welcome to another video. In today's video, we're going to do a recap of how my modifications for winter preparation turned out. So let's jump into it right away. Up in this front area, if you've seen my previous video, I put in that closed cell foam up here, as well as I did end up putting in the clear bubble wrap up here. So the performance wise, it was much better, but it was still a little bit cool. So I think I need to put that same closed cell foam underneath the mattress area. And I've kind of talked about it before, but that whole front cap, when I was doing some investigation on that outlet up there, I did notice there's some insulation missing up there, so I might have to insulate that area better. But again, much better, actually tolerable. It wasn't too cold by any means, but really trying to get the comfort level up on this RV. So jumping back here, my window modification, I did have to make some change. Originally, I was going to put some kind of foam insulation on this single pane glass, that 1-inch section that's exposed, but all I ended up doing was plugging these weep holes with this foam seal. That way, when you close the window, there wasn't that air gap and the wind was just blowing in. So I didn't have any condensation problems, but there is the dual pane windows. We do not get any type of condensation at all. They're actually pretty comfortable, but there is that little thin band of 1-inch single pane glass that goes around. I don't know why they have it. I wish if they took care of that, you'd actually have no issues at all. But closing up these weep seals, that actually helped out quite a bit. And jumping back into the back bedroom, same thing here is I had that closed cell foam here. I did put the bubble wrap on that window, but it was much better. Still, this area gets a little cool, and I think I need to do some improvements. You know, obviously there's 3 windows here. I never put any type of cover over those 2 windows, and I think I need to do that. And then underneath the bed, you know, the bed sits just on a slide out, and that slide out is just same as the side walls. It's just basically insulated flooring, but they have those metal studs or those tubing, and there's no thermal barrier on that. So I think I might put that same closed cell foam down at the bottom of the mattress here, and that should help out as well. But overall, satisfactory. Jumping to the bathroom, same theme, put the bubble wrap insulation here. You know, I put the insulated covers in there. Much more comfortable, but I did have an issue here. If you recall on one of my previous videos, I did move the heater vent, the propane vent that used to be behind the door and would just blow out the door. I did move it over here. Again, much better improvement, but because it's only a 2-inch ducting, it could not keep up in here. It was still too cold, and you know, I know everyone likes the bathrooms a little bit warmer, so I will likely end up putting another 2-inch duct back over there, so I'll have a total of, we'll call it 4-inch ducting for this bathroom, and I think that'd be the right size. Let's jump back out to the living area. Now, some of the things I talked about was all from boondocking. So most of our camping was boondocking, which means no hookups and cold weather. So overall, because I did the ducting modifications up here, I could set the thermostat at 70. Technically, we set the thermostat on this one at 63 because that sensor for the temperature sits way up here, and it gets a really cold reading here. So if you set it to 70, it'll more likely be 80 up here. So if we set it at 63, then the temperature up here is more like 70. So it always gets a false reading over there. So I think Dynamax should definitely relocate that sensor. I don't know where, but definitely not by that front door, because it just has a false reading from that one to, now this floor plan has 2 sensors. We also have one in the bedroom back here. Big swing difference between those 2 sensors. But overall, this thing performed really good with these modifications. We're very comfortable in here boondocking. And the limitation with that boondocking was it does chew up the propane really quick with running the heat, because, you know, the heat cycles on and off quite frequently. Obviously, the colder it is, it's going to cycle quite a bit. And the other limitation is the batteries. So if I went to bed with, you know, the batteries at, let's say, 90%, 95%, by the following morning, we'd only be at about 50% of battery capacity, and that's with the furnace running all night. I do leave the inverter on all night because this is a residential refrigerator, so I do need to have the inverter on. The same as I leave the Starlink on. I never shut the Starlink off. So it does chew up the batteries just because I have the inverter on all the time, as well as the propane. Now, the other type of camping is obviously with hookups. We did have a few days with hookups. And with hookups, you know, we use an electric space heater up here, and that turns out really great. Love this particular brand space heater. I usually go through a couple of space heaters a year, but this is the quietest one I've ever had. So we have that plugged into that outlet there. And then in the back, I have a separate space heater for the bedroom area here, and that's just plugged into this outlet here. And then finally, I do have a third electric heater in the bathroom. Now these 2 heaters back here, way overkill. They're much larger than they need to be. So I haven't found the perfect heaters for back here, because the issue that I have is the bathroom heater. It's on the same circuit as this heater, as well as this outlet, this pop-up outlet up here. So if you're using any kind of, like I use an induction plate once in a while and our hot kettle, so you have to shut these devices off in order to use them. And if that heater is on high and that ends up kicking up on high, the circuit will pop. So I definitely need to get a smaller heater in the back. And if Dynamax could do anything, you know, it's not just Dynamax, I think any RV manufacturer, if they could put in basically a dedicated circuit up in this area, because a lot of people end up using an electric heater. So the other thing is my basement, or my wet bay compartment, that also has a 12-volt electric heater. So when we're running on shore power, might as well use that free power that you get with it instead of chewing up your propane. So it performed really good. Like I said, very comfortable. We definitely do not rough it by any means. Let's jump on to the side and the outside. Now jumping onto this entry door, let me close this entry door here. So I did end up putting this bubble wrap in, and I think this turned out really good. I didn't, you know, it is still a little obscure to see outside. I don't know if that's the right term, but you know what I mean. Before I used to have this bubble wrap, I used to run one of these. So it's just basically an insulated cover, and it's about the exact same size as this window. And when I used to run that on here, of course it would just be totally blacked out. But the other thing I noticed was on the outside, I would actually have, you know, that window would, the condensation would form really hard, and it would start leaking down this window here, and I would have ice build up here. Let me see if I can find a clip of that and put that in here. And then going to the outside, I did notice condensation coming out of this door hardware here, as well as from the bottom of the windows. Remember I said that's a single pane glass? So I will have to fix that. And if you go to the back in the bathroom, you can see some condensation came out of here as well. So that's from inside the windows in the bathroom. Obviously that's a shower area, so I will have to fix that as well. Now if you've seen that clip, you can see that since I put in this bubble wrap, no condensation at all. So I think it's a win. Scientifically, I don't know how much it helped improve the, we'll call it the heat loss, but in my mind it helped out. So jumping to the side here, now before we went on one of these trips, I knew we were going to run into a lot of snow, slush, and rain. And when you're driving in slush, that's if you've ever driven in any type of slush or rain, you know how much that water and that snow and slush gets everywhere. Well, I was a little bit worried because this wet bay, not this wet bay, sorry, this storage bay was known to always get water in here whenever I drove through rain. So before I went on this trip, I did take out all my light fixtures. Actually, in every compartment, I took out all my light fixtures. And what I discovered was when they ran that wiring through the back, it comes through this compartment and from the body. On some of them, not all of them, they actually had a hole about the size of a quarter, and they ran the wires to the back of the fixture. And then, you know, obviously there's screws on here. This one had 4 screws, and the water was likely coming in through those quarter-size holes and dripping down the bottom. So I sealed all those holes up with butyl tape and caulking, and then put caulking on all 4 screws, as well as I actually caulked all the wet bay areas. I keep saying wet bay, but I meant I sealed up all my bays with this caulking that was missing. So since I've done that modification, absolutely no water in here at all. I think Dynamax needs to do their quality check and make sure they put proper sealant on all of their bays and their light fixtures. And then jumping in the back here, I have the same problem. This was one of the bays that would get water quite a bit, and this was bone dry. And then my battery bay, if you've seen my previous video, I painted it since, but this battery bay here, I completely sealed the bottom, the top, or the back side, and the side. So the back side and the bottom, I used that 1-inch insulation covered with this Flex Seal. And then wherever there was holes, I used the spray foam insulation. You can see some remnants of that yellow spray foam insulation. So this bay was bone dry. It turned out really good. And based on ambient temperature, it just took longer for this bay to get cold, I guess. So if it dropped really below freezing, the thing I noticed is slowly over time, of course, it will catch up to almost ambient temperature. So another modification I need to make is I need to connect this bay to this bay next door, because this bay is supposed to be heated, or it is heated. So I will do that modification here in the future. And let's jump into finally my last item here. is my wet bay. So my wet bay here is same thing. If you're doing winter camping, you know, obviously my freshwater tank is on the inside, so no issues with the freshwater, but my black and gray tanks are in this wet bay. And my wet bay is slightly insulated. They have this foil stuff here. I don't know how much it does, but it does help a little bit. And then it does have that electric heater, a 12-volt heater there, that's controlled by the Firefly system. So it's good to monitor, easy to monitor, and you can see it when it comes on and off. But the problem I had with this wet bay is that's actually the secondary form of heating. The primary form of heating is supposed to be my propane tank or my propane heater, and there's supposed to be a duct that comes into this wet bay somewhere here, you know, in between the other side. I ran a camera and everything, and I could not find that duct. And the reason I say that, or why I investigated that, is when I had my propane furnace on, it had zero impact to this area. I mean, when it was cold outside, that propane furnace was coming on all the time. So I had a suspicion that there was no heated duct in here like it's supposed to. So I did run a camera here and the ducting up on top. And I know I think they just forgot it at the factory. Kind of a shame, but I'll have to put one in because you know, while the propane furnace is on, might as well take advantage of that extra heat that the propane heater is generating. Otherwise, if you run that 12-volt heater, it really chews into the battery. And that's really it. I don't have much else to talk about, but if you put in, you know, a couple of simple modifications, you can really make these RVs comfortable. I did like the 4x4 overall. I still do want to have some kind of lift and better tires, but I don't know how long I'm going to hold on to this RV. So I'm not sure if I'm going to invest that type of money into this yet. We shall see. But overall, very satisfied with taking this on a winter trip. I don't know if there was a glimpse of this light hanging down, but this is basically where my solar port is. And I'm not sure if I can show. There we go. You can see where all the insulation is missing. So this light here where the solar port is, I have a secondary solar port in the back, same thing, where all the insulation is missing. I think I'll have a video coming up in the future. I did have a roof leak, not at this one, but one in the back behind that, this one right here. I did have a pretty good leak from the roof there, so I might show that on the next video. We shall see. Not sure if I'm going to do that one or do a vlog video, but we'll see on the next video.